simply because of the importance of this question. And then secondly, I'll tell you why I thought maybe we might want to have a with the offsets. I'm not quite certain whether Ferrostar would not want to consider their position as far as this document is concerned. They say it contains very explosive information, and when you look at it, just 10 pages of consent. Because the perception out there is that, there's very explosive information. Strictly portion of the report which relates to South Africa. And I'll tell you why I say so. This document keeps on maintains the position that these documents are not explosive information which is contained in this document.
Thank you, Chair. I would take
Thank you, Chair. The That is the view that we hold, that the suggestion that we should adjourn in order to enable the legal representatives of
Lepis. Mr. Choi?
I must say I fully agree with the sentiments that you expressed. I went through the document myself last night again, and the perception is being created that this is, as the witness called it, dynamite. This is clearly not dynamite, and it creates the wrong impression.
When you look at the statement of Mr. Crawford-Browne, he deals with this document almost in, this is one paragraph or something like that. You understand? It's only one paragraph, but then the perception that it will proceed with Mr. Crawford-Browne because, this report, it deals with it in one paragraph almost towards the end of his statement. Well, that's such it. I'm trying to avoid a situation where we must adjourn altogether now.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's quite sensible. Chair, I will seek the instruction on the basis that
Portions, only about 10 pages, from page 58 to page 68. And the first 4 pages, those are Mr. Mahal.
Right, thank you, Chair. Mr. Crawford-Browne, when we adjourned yesterday,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mahal.
when we adjourned yesterday, you had dealt with paragraphs. I think the last paragraph that you dealt with was paragraph 1.50. Yeah, that one relating to the
152 at the end. This is the end of the first section, Mr. Chairman. In summary, the offsets were simply a vehicle to pay bribes. Used. The Sunday Times report that article can be found on pages 200. A short maintenance cycle, he said. Another thing we need to bear in mind is that in the previous dispensation, when we bought vessels of that nature, we would have had a huge integrated logistics support system with it, which would include some main equipment like engines and the ancillary equipment. This is something we are living with, unquote. As the Mail and Guardian newspaper records, Admiral Green in August 2013 denied at the reported, and this article can be found in pages 394 to 396 of the bundle. Quote, 12 of the South African Air Force's 26 Gripen fighter jets are in long-term storage, according to the Defense Minister, Nosizo Makiso. Long-term storage. These aircraft are placed in storage as a planned activity in line with their utilization and budget expenditure pattern flow of the of the South African Air Force, Bapisa Nkukla said. At present, the SA must have 6 unquote. This appalling state of affairs was widely predicted in the Parliamentary Defence Review, both by South Africans and by diplomatic observers. Members of Parliament who objected to the in particular with Ms. Prague's governor.
And who else?
prefer not to disclose their identities. I'd prefer not to. Which I will come to in just a moment. Okay. 2.4. Similarly, the Auditor General in his report to Parliament in September 2000 noted no consideration had been given to the requirements for the per paragraphs 126 and 127 above. It was recommended to Cabinet in May 1999 that the BAE SAB acquisitions were in fact bought for the bribes rather than for any rational defence requirements. The former June 1999, one Navy admiral told her, quote, "Ma'am, we bought the wrong equipment," unquote.
Identity of the person who supposedly had expertise to venture this opinion has not been disclosed.
Three, ask a question where it will move because of the Can I go back to that question? Can you tell us where the members of the ANC were removed so that we can also try and contact them and find
of Takada Asmal, who was presenting it. In fact, I was waved down in the corridors of Parliament by Ms. Thandi Modise, who was then the head of the committee. And she said the Cabinet again, we now had 15 NGOs who objected. Over the Christmas Act to the members of the ANC members of that committee, saying you are here in Parliament not to represent the people, but to represent the ANC. You will obey instructions or else.
Mr. Crawford-Browne, if you don't mind.
who voted against the arms acquisition. We also know the whole record without their authority.
Okay, thank you. Now, 2.5, you're talking about Miss Noseviwe Madlala Routledge, who told you that somebody else told her that. Are you in a position
inquiry has the right, I submit, to accept even hearsay evidence?
Just hold on, Mr. Crawford-Browne. We'll come to that. I just wanted to find out who's this Navy admiral who is alleged to have said, to have had a discussion with Ms. Madlala Routledge. Do you know who she was referring to?
She has not disclosed the name to me, but presumably she would be prepared to disclose.
Deal with her in order to try and get confirmation from her. We might even be lucky to get the name of this admiral who seems to be having very important information, and probably try also to subpoena that admiral.
Amount of time and financial resources on testimonies by admirals, generals, and officials who played no or minimal roles in the acquisition decision-making process. Their testimonies were reminiscent of a presentation in 1997 by Commander, now Admiral Cubby Howell, during the Defense Review, that submarines are the ultimate stealth weapon to protect fish. So the decisions were made at Cabinet, not in either the Department of Defense or amongst admirals or generals. The decisions on what acquisitions to make were made by the Cabinet subcommittee headed by Mr. Thabo Mbeki.
So you're saying that the general the generals and admirals played no role whatsoever in the acquisition process or in deciding which equipment to buy. Is this what you're saying?
That were made at Cabinet. As we know from the testimony from Mr. Pierre Steyn, the Hawks and Gripens were the basis of a visionary approach by Mr. Joe Modise. Objections
officials who played no roles in the acquisition decision-making process. You're referring to the people who testified before this commission. Is that correct?
The point, sir, is the rationale. Offsets that would create 65,000 jobs. That was the rationale, not the need for warships and warplanes. A Hawk and BA Gripen fighter aircraft, and as the Admiral bought the wrong equipment.
Are you aware that each one of them testified?
Sir. And as we heard from Admiral Green, he tells Parliament one thing and he tells the Commission the other.
Well, I don't follow. I think I'll leave it there.
Right, Mr. Crawford-Browne. Which led to the decision making by those that had the power to make decisions.
In the first instance, the Defence Review was actually established to consider the whole issue in terms of the Defence White Paper. Why I was appointed to the Defence Review. Not afford the acquisitions, and he asked the committee for new instructions. He was then overruled at that point by Mr. Tony Yengeni as chairman of the committee on the instructions to proceed on the assumption of better financial days ahead for South Africa. At that point, he took over.
Question. The decision making. The decision being made by those that had the powers to make the decisions. There was a process that was put in place where there were other role players. Do you agree that there was a process that was put in place prior to the decisions that were made?
Yes, there was a Defence White Paper of 1996, followed by the Defence Review.
Right. There was the Defence White Paper, and then there was the Defence Review, which after this review was adopted by all parties, in order to execute what was actually agreed upon in terms of the defense review, then processes were put in place in preparation.
To say would require further parliamentary authority. This was then taken up by
I see you are nodding. You agree?
Great.
And in that space, mentioned after the process that I'm talking about had been completed, the process of evaluations, the process of developing even the recommendations. Is it correct?
I can't give you what date that visionary approach appears, but it called visionary approach by the former Minister of Defence. Much more detail is, I think, forthcoming in the draft of the JIT report.
Who were conversant with the development of evaluation systems, the offsets, and so forth. Do you agree that those
A presentation in 1997 by Commander, now Admiral Cubby Howell, during the Defence Review.
let's take a step back and look at the evidence that was presented before the commission. Is it correct? If you know, of course. They need to comply with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa.
In Canada. The point, however, was suddenly submarines were the new toy that the admirals wanted to protect fish.
The question that I've asked relates to the evidence that has been laid about the rationale for the acquisition.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ramaphosa. Mr. Crawford-Browne, are you saying that this toy that the Navy wanted
From his mouth to my notebook, I was so astounded at the time.
Right, let's proceed to the next paragraph. Time of the decisions being made to acquire